Making possible the immediate consideration of H 826. Gentleman from 16.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 826.
Without objection, the gentleman has the floor to open the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before you, ladies and gentlemen, is the Commission for Libraries fiscal year 2023 appropriation. I think we're getting a little familiar with this. The difference between this appropriation bill and the one that died on the House floor yesterday, and Mr. Speaker, can I request unanimous consent to refer to other legislation?
Without objection, you may reference the bill that appertains to this, but no other bill.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The difference between this bill and the one that you considered yesterday is that this bill removed $3.5 million of ARPA funds for technology projects related to the libraries. It is related to broadband and some other things. But that is the main difference. We did also remove, once again, the digital collection line item for, I think, about $300,000 that was excluded yesterday as well. But that is the fiscal year 2023 appropriation for the Commission of Libraries. Happy to take your questions.
Is there further debate? Gentleman from 10.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate against the bill.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't really consider this $3.5 million. May I request unanimous consent to refer to House Bill 824?
Without objection, the gentleman may refer to 824.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't really consider the $3.5 million necessarily to be a budget cut. I consider it to be a fine leveled for some of the debate we heard on 824. A fine for opposing the will of the body, and I would urge the Finance Committee to put that money back in this budget. And for that reason, I will be voting no.
There further debate? Hearing none, will the gentleman please stand and close the debate?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before you is the fiscal year 2023 appropriation for the Commission for Libraries. Take it or leave it.
Debate is closed. The question before the House is, shall House Bill number 826 pass? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will record their votes. Has every member voted? Representative Chu, we're waiting on you. The lady votes no. Are there members who wish to change their vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. Vote count shows 29 in favor. Oh, please read the pairs as if it will make a difference.
Moon votes nay. Kirby votes aye.
The vote count shows 29 in favor with 36 against with 5 absent. House Bill 826 has failed to pass the House and will be retained in the office of the Chief Clerk. House Bill number 827. Good lady from 5.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 827. Thank you.
You've heard the request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the lady is recognized to open the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good ladies and gentlemen. After this budget is similar to the budget we considered this morning, and after careful consideration and a lot of conversation today, and I would also like to say, and thanks to the Idaho Commission for the Libraries on their willingness to work with us, we would like to provide them with a budget so that they can get their job done. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I would ask for your green light.
Is there further debate? Gentleman from 26.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate the bill.
You have the floor.
Here we are, hours later than we should have been, debating a budget that we should have passed days ago, not the one that we should have passed earlier today. I just want everyone to know that what we're removing here, because a dedicated group of public servants.
Lady from 23.
Point of order. Are we allowed to read on the House floor?
We are not. Not without permission, anyway.
Okay.
Gentleman from 26.
So we are removing $3.5 million that would have been used for telehealth grants so that we could build private rooms with quality internet access in rural libraries all across this state so that people in the most rural parts of this state could go and they could get medical care. So that folks in Wallace, population 780, and folks in Idaho City, population 480, and folks in Stites, Idaho, and I have no idea where Stites, Idaho is, but I do know that its population is 220 because I looked it up. Apparently it's in your neck of the woods. We're cutting that out. So we are punishing folks because a group of people in this room is upset that
Mr.
librarians...
Speaker, point
Lady
of
from
order.
23.
I'm not reading.
He's making assumptions about people's
Yeah, you're
motives.
impugning motives, and while it's late, let's stay within the lines. Go ahead.
It would appear to me that we are removing this $3.5 million from this budget because a group of people spoke up advocating for their jobs and advocating for their communities and advocating for the people that live in their town. It seems to me that what is happening by removing this $3.5 million is we are abridging people's rights to free speech. They had the right to say what they had to say about what we did, and here we are punishing them for it. And you might disagree with me, but to me it's a pretty straightforward line that we are now, the government is infringing on people's right to free speech because we didn't like what they said. So I will be a no on this. It's downright un-American. I will not vote yes on this budget.
Thank you, good gentleman. Is there further debate? Gentleman from 15.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In my opinion, this is nothing short of being a mean-spirited, vindictive bill, in my opinion. This bill says that we solve problems by punishing people. And I will be casting my no vote knowing my heart is not that dark.
Mr. Speaker, I would object again. Let's elevate the debate and not impugn people's motives for voting the way they are or the color of their heart.
Okay.
I object to this constant badgering of voices that they don't like to hear. I've listened to debate on this floor that is based on conjecture, not fact. And when we say something, all of a sudden everyone pops up and objects. It's an abuse
I'm going to
of
give some
parliamentary procedure.
latitude to the gentleman. I know it's late. I know tempers are frayed. I know we're all invested one way or the other in this bill. I would remind the body that this is a time to step up a little. And
I would just ask...
Your debate was not called out of order by me, and you've made your point. And anyway, let's see what everybody else has to say. Is there further debate? Gentleman from 17.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to point out that the bill before us shows a 10.5% reduction in spending from the 2022 original appropriation, and that this is highly unusual this year. Now, the bills I'm going to talk about, before anybody objects, these are bills that have been signed into law, appropriation bills. There's about 40 of them, but I'm not going to go through all 40 out of courtesy in the time. But I just want to point out that Lieutenant Governor, 10.4% increase, Tax Commission, 6.5%, Offices of Species Conservation, 34.8%, Vocational Rehabilitation, 3.4%, Blind Commission, 3.4%, Department of Finance, 10.6%. Juvenile Corrections, 5.3%. State Appellate Public Defender, 11.8%. Public Defense, 3.4%. Human Resources, 83.3%. Division of Financial Management, 31.8%. State Police, 20%. Administration, 5.1%. DEQ, 101%. Transportation, 46.8%. And plus two other bills that have been signed into law, one for $100 million transferred from the general fund, and another, SB 1359, that's signed into law, $252,885,000. So the total transportation is way above 46.8%. Health and welfare, family community services, 14.4%. And you can go through the others. We are in a year when we are seeing nearly every budget increase substantially. In part, that's because of inflation, and in part, that's because of all the ARPA money. This budget could have used additional funding in order to service the use of libraries that is probably the most important and the most common these days, and that is electronic and internet communications. That's what we're really seeing the high usage and the high attention to in many of our libraries, probably most of them. I can't say that because I haven't been to most of them, but in many of the ones that I've been to, those computers, the electronic, the communication is used. It seems like there's almost 100% usage. This budget is not fair to the libraries. It is a 10.5% reduction, and I urge your red light for that reason. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Is there further debate? Lady from 18.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate against the bill?
Yeah, the floor.
Well, I wanted to underscore and add to some of what was said by the good gentleman from 26. And this is, before anybody starts to jump up, I mean, this is not conjecture on motives. This is literally a recap of what was spoken out loud and what happened on the floor. And I think it really bears emphasis because this is so much more dangerous a trend. This issue goes so far beyond libraries. What happened in this body, I think it's imperative that it be nipped in the bud. It is profoundly dangerous, one of the most dangerous things I've seen happen in this body in my time here. And that was specifically going after people for exercising their sacred First Amendment right to petition their government for redress. This is one of the 5 basic freedoms of the First Amendment, to petition the government and approach us and say, this is why I want you to do this or not do this.
Mr. Speaker, are we discussing a different bill here?
She was just going to get back to the bill, but I think this is debate that has happened on this bill, and without belaboring the point, she was about to make her point.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think this is so very germane and absolutely central to the bill that we are debating here. It is how we got to the bill that we have here with the numbers that are in this bill. And it was really made quite explicit in this body that the numbers that are in this bill are there as punishment for those who exercise their First Amendment right to seek redress of their government. We cannot go down this path, people. We cannot go down this path of punishing people who have the temerity to speak out to their government in terms of what bills they want and don't want.
Point of order. Thank you. That certainly wasn't my reasons for previous votes on previous bills. In any case, I don't see how that's germane to this bill at hand.
Mr. Speaker, I am following a line of rationale that was made very explicit, was spoken very clearly on this floor as a reason for the numbers that are in this bill and the diminution of numbers that were in previous approaches.
Stop. Okay.
Point of order again.
Gentleman, say 2.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Whether or not somebody says it is my opinion that we are doing this for a specific reason, or they say you are doing this for a reason, you are still impugning the character of somebody as far as why they may have voted against a bill previously or specifically the bill in front of us. And this line of debate that constantly says you did this because of a punishment is impugning the motives on somebody else. That was one person in their debate, and you're impugning the entire body on what we may or may not decide to do.
Mr. Speaker, I did not at any point in my debate here suggest what the reasons of this entire body were. In fact, I was really quite specific that we cannot go down the path.
All right, okay. And please take your seat, but let's proceed. That was brought up. We read by the body's permission from emails and whatnot the other day, but you can also understand that brush with which you paint may not apply to everyone. So yeah, that's why they're standing up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I understand that there may be a multitude of rationales for
but
why
you're
people
talking
voted.
about one of them, but when you anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, but I am really deeply concerned about the message that is going out to the world.
Sorry, just
State
a quick
point.
point of order. It's getting late, and I get that, but these are objections. If you have an objection to what she's saying, it's an I object. It's not a point of order. So I just want to clarify that if there's something else the lady says that somebody doesn't like.
All right. Yeah, that to some degree is true, except for we learned the other day, point of order, I object. And then you would go on. So we'll get all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed, because we worry about that stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Anyway, please continue with your debate against the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe that this bill will send a message out to the world that people need to proceed with great caution in sending messages to this body, that they cannot feel free to express their opinions and their requests to this body, or they will be met with swift and severe punishment. I'm very concerned about that message going out to the world. I think it's very dangerous to our form of government, and so I hope you will give this bill your red light.
Is there further debate? Good lady from 31.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to briefly address this budget and my position on earlier versions of this budget, if I may refer to that. Mr. Speaker.
Well, to what is the lady going to refer? Other pieces of legislation?
To an earlier version of this budget.
All right. Without objection. There's been an objection, so keep it to this budget.
All right, Mr. Speaker. There has been a suggestion that we have arrived at this budget because of some intention to silence freedom of speech. I've been in this body long enough and associated with all of you long enough that you know that I am not a person who is vindictive, who is unkind, or who punishes people based on their viewpoints. I was clear in my debate that my objections were not to the fact that somebody disagreed, but to the fact that the information that was distributed and presented by a professional association was not accurate, and that association at that time, knowing that the information was inaccurate, did not correct the narrative or the information, and did not at that time come to the table to help us address a genuine concern. Mr. Speaker.
Please state your objection.
The good lady is asserting that the information is incorrect. That's her opinion. And there's no evidence that, in fact, it is correct, so I wish she would be more specific that it's her opinion instead of a fact.
You need to qualify your statements as your opinion, as we've had the others do.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, and I am sorry that we are having to have this discussion at this time. I did distribute the emails to which I referred so that you would all have the opportunity to evaluate for yourself the accuracy of my statements. But I do want you to know that we have had a great experience working with the Library Association and the Commission on Libraries, and I have sincerely appreciated the genuine trust which they have extended to this body. I see no positive benefit that is served, no purpose that is served by framing this in a way that stirs up conflict and paints this body as anti-democratic. We are here to serve the people of the state of Idaho. And I urge your green light on this budget to that end and look forward to working toward positive solutions. Thank you.
Is there further debate? Lady from 35. Now, I'm going to suggest that we stick within the four corners of this bill and the one page of bill and the fiscal statement, and let's talk about numbers. Are they enough, or is it too much? What are we going to spend them on? And move on from the past. Let's look forward with 827 in mind. Lady from 35, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to say I appreciate all the work that you have all gone to and the good faith that we're working with among us. Unfortunately, this has ARPA, and I have committed not to vote for ARPA, so I just want my constituents to know why I will be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further debate within the four corners of the bill? Gentleman from 13.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Just to briefly debate, very briefly, I think we should have more of these late nights because I tell you what, the energy here is fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to miss this. I'm going to support the bill. I think we have all come to a consensus here, well, most of us, and I think this is the right way forward. I'm excited to see this bill pass, and thank you. That's it.
No further debate. Gentleman from 16, within the four corners.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, absolutely. Good ladies and gentlemen, I'm not happy with this budget. There are earlier versions of this budget I would have preferred. I'm not happy with some of the debate that has surrounded our libraries. I don't think that librarians are criminals. I think our librarians work really hard in our communities, and they want us to be literate. They want us to study. They want us to have a wider perspective of the world around us. Again, I don't like this particular budget. I would rather have had an earlier version. What I've learned in 8 years is sometimes you can argue the policy and you get it across because it's a good policy reason. And sometimes you vote for something because that's where the votes are. And tonight I'm voting for this because I feel like that's where the votes are.
Is there further debate? Hearing none. Last call. Lady from 5, will you please stand and close the debate?
All right, Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for allowing me to close the debate, and I appreciate the rigorous debate. Let's make a couple things clear. I love libraries. In fact, I and my nonprofit consulting company give away services to my local libraries because I believe in them so much that I'm willing to invest my own time in libraries. Let's review some of the facts about the budget. We have not reduced 1 cent from the general funds, not 1 cent from the general funds that were in the original budget. We have not reduced 1 cent of the dedicated funds from the original budget, not 1 cent. The difference that we're talking about when we're saying that it is a minus 10% budget is federal funds. It is not general funds, it is not dedicated funds, it is federal funds. And so it is unfair to say that we are treating the Commission for Libraries differently than we are our other agencies in this state. I believe libraries are a cornerstone of our small communities, and I would not want to do anything to hurt that. And I don't believe anyone in this body would care to do so either. This is not about freedom of speech. This is about giving the libraries the funding that they need to get their job done. It does not include as much federal funding as we originally had proposed, but we have not cut our commitment as a state. And I want to make that clear to the librarians out there. We are not cutting our commitment as a state to this organization. And with that, I ask for your green light.
Thank you. Debate is closed. The question before the House is, shall House Bill number 827 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will record the votes and read the pairs at some point. Has every member voted? Are there members who wish to change their vote? The clerk will lock the machine and read the pairs.
Amador votes aye. Necochea votes nay. Furness votes aye. Dixon votes nay.
The vote count shows 41 in favor with 21 against and 8 absent. House Bill number 827 has passed the House and will be transmitted to the Senate